It's been a month since I started this project, and this is my monthly check-in. I was doing daily check-ins on TikTok until I was inundated with too much tech and overwhelmed a lot. This is all about what I've learned, where I'm at, moving towards the end goal, which is to get Credli AI into the hands of the people that really, really want it and help them to use it so that I'm able to create a system that will inevitably be something that they can subscribe to on a monthly basis that will help them to rank in AI search, but also to understand where their authority is. It's more of an authority and a credibility tool than it is just a ranking tool. And that's what I built it for. And the reason I started this whole project was because I had my resume out online for about 18 months on these pay for work places where you upload your resume. And all I got was spam and people pretending to be C-suite executives who were pretending to help me get a job. And this became like a very difficult situation to move through, not only because I was looking for work, but because it's very depressing when people lie and when you are thought of as being that stupid that you are going to be spammed by some person who is like just faking you out and wants to take all your money. So I really was I was just so upset about the whole situation. And for 18 months, I tried so hard to just get an interview. And that was not happening. I couldn't even get interviewed. I couldn't even get somebody to contact me back. And I spent a lot of time on my resume. I did not spend a lot of time on my LinkedIn profile, like every day updating it and all that, and say I was looking for work, because there were so many people looking for work on LinkedIn that it was like, I don't want to be one of those people. And so I reached out cold, but still got nothing. And so with the last of the money that I had, I started creating Credli, and I just put my head down, and it has been over 400 hours of work. I work about 100 hours a week, no joke. I sleep anywhere from 3 to 5 hours a night, if that. Sometimes on the weekends, I can catch up on like a Sunday. And then I start all over again on Sunday and, get into it again. The biggest thing that I've learned on Credli, which is the page that I'm on and I'm sharing with you right now, is how to build this. And it looks really simple. It's a few lines of text and whatever. Well, when you start to code yourself, or when you start to use a terminal and you start to use what they call an agentic coding assistant, it's not so simple. And the number one thing that I learned here was how to direct my terminal to do what I needed it to do and what I wanted it to do, the end goal of the terminal. Not knowing anything about terminals, not knowing anything about code, I took courses, I got certified, I spent hours in front of the computer going through courses, learning, getting my certifications, working, trying to figure this out. And I took this course by deep learning, and I started implementing on everything that I learned in that course. And that's how Credli came about. And the reason, again, is because I couldn't get a job, and I was like, I'm going to just find something that I can use that will tell me if these people are real. And everything that I went to find if these people were real were really expensive. And so I ended up doing a lot of research on my own. And that was where the whole idea of Credli came out, where authority, credibility, integrity, what kind of value are you bringing to the marketplace? And do you even know who's using your name, your company name? Like, these were big companies that were scamming me, but they weren't real companies. They were obviously using the name of these big companies. And that's obviously highly illegal, but how do you track all that? And how does a company even find these people? So that was where this whole thing came about. So I started creating a proprietary score based upon a model that I would have used, and that I went into all of the AIs and I ran it by all of the AIs, and then I did some research on it, and I came up with my own proprietary scoring model. And that's where this came in. It's the individual engine scores, visibility, and coverage number, right? And that's a score that shows you your visibility and then your coverage. And was this easy to set up? Absolutely not. It was not easy to set up. Every single thing on here took hours to do. And when I say hours, I'm talking maybe 15, 20 hours just to get one thing right. And sure, I guess you could do this on, one of the third parties like Go High Level or something, but you can't actually create a SaaS on there. And that's where, because you're building a SaaS on a SaaS, it doesn't work. So SaaS, software as a service, you can't build a software and a service on a software as a service. So that's why you code your own. The terminal took a long time to learn. It took a long time to groom, to tell it exactly how to think. And it's been a month since I started this project with Credli AI. The reason I started the project was because I couldn't find a job. I had been on the workforce, resume building sites for 18 months, paying fees on a monthly basis, trying to get my resume to the people that would want to hire me, and I got nothing. It became very demoralizing, very, very depressing, and I decided with the last of my money to start to create my own SaaS based upon authority and credibility and integrity of what was out on the web about certain companies, and more professional companies than anything else. And this was basically because I was getting scammed by people who were pretending to be C-suite executives and hiring managers and big time hiring companies, and were honestly just scammers from anywhere in the world. And this really, it really messed with my psyche. And if you understand what it's like to look for a job, or you understand what it's like to be unemployed or working for yourself for 20 years, you understand that going back into the workforce is really difficult, just doing that, but also not having the ability to get a job because all you're doing is getting scammed. It's just very difficult on your psyche. So I created Credli based upon that. And this is what I've learned in the past month by developing this. And what you're looking at right now might seem very simple to you. And it might look like, but I can tell you, it is a very big deal because of what's behind this and how I built it, and also what I've learned. So the first thing I learned about this was that I had to get a lot of different certifications in order to understand what I was doing. Number two, I had to learn how to code and how to specifically tell Terminal what to code. And if you don't know coding and you're not used to that, that's a very big learning curve. And it will cost you a fortune because you will be paying for all the tokens to have the terminal hash basically do your work for you and send that to GitHub and then send that to a host. So I use render.com and I use GitHub to host my site, to get my files up and put them into GitHub, or put them into render.com. And that is a whole different world for me. I never learned that. So that's one of the biggest things that I learned, is how to prompt a terminal and how to groom the terminal to think so that the terminal is not only thinking correctly, it is actually thinking about what the end goal is. So number one thing I learned is how to prompt your terminal and how to think like a terminal thinks. This is one of the biggest learning curves that I've had. In addition to that, I've also had to put out a lot of content. I've had to create the content, edit the content, and disseminate or publish the content. And that is where I ended up doing an automation. But before I get to that part, I wanted to share the cred score, because I started out with giving people a free cred score. And I thought that's going to be great. But what I found out was that the API that I was using was getting, I don't know how to say it, for lack of a better word, hacked. And so I couldn't use that API because I would go to my limit within an hour or 15 minutes. And so something was hitting my API and using it. And that's really hard, because you spend so much time to do the work and you put the work out there, and then all of a sudden you get hacked. And, then there's another hit to not only your ego, your pride, but all the work that you just did. And you don't feel very good about it because you feel like, is there nothing that's going to give me a little bit of help here? Just, maybe, maybe a client, a paying client, right? So that was a big hit, not only to my ego and to my pride, but also to, like, I've been developing this and really working hard on it, and now I can't figure out how to use this API. So what I did was I created these blue buttons here and here for the Credly score, and it goes directly into a form that they fill out now. And the reason I did that was because I couldn't really figure out how to tell the terminal and limit the API usage and then show how this works too. So I had it set up correctly in the beginning, and then I ended up doing something kind of crazy with the CSS, which is the style sheet, and it broke the site. And that's something that you have to get used to, is that your site might break, that you might do something or tell the terminal to do something, or the terminal might think for itself, which is something that it does, and breaks the site. And so I had to start somewhat from not scratch, but just going back in and figuring out where that problem started. And that was pretty intense. So the biggest thing that I learned, the number one thing, is how to groom the terminal, how to tell the terminal what to do, how to tell the terminal what to think, how to think, and what the goal is. And those are just some of the that I've learned with this terminal. But as of right now, instead of this going to a score that they create on their own, they fill out this information, and then I create that for them. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I know who is not only on the site, but who really wants to work with me. And that's really important. Who wants to work with you, who is interested in what you have to offer, who is really interested in getting to know you so that they can get to work with you. And this is something that I feel is really lost in the AI world, because you don't know who you're dealing with a lot of the times. How is this working for them? How is their ranking really working for them? Is it authority driven? Is it credibility driven? Is it integrity driven? What is that score all about? And that's where the human interaction comes in, even though that's so, like, not 2025. There is no human interaction anymore. So I have learned a lot about how to groom a terminal and tell it what it needs to do, but I've also learned a lot about, do I want this to be completely AI driven, or do I want this to be human driven as well, so that there is a human element to this, so that when people are looking at this, they're saying, okay, there's a human behind this, and I know I can talk to somebody. And that, to me, is something I want. So I figure that if you are a professional in the industry, you probably want that as well, because professionals do want to know who they're dealing with and what the end game is. And so if you're able to give them that, I think that's pretty important. So that's the human part of Credli AI. Granted, I want to make it a lot stronger, more robust, and be able to do things on its own, so that there isn't too much human interaction, but there's human interaction based upon what the professional wants to see and how they want to be the authority in their niche. The next thing I learned about was automating content. So this is N8N, and this was a very difficult setup. I had about 3 days worth of a lot of hours and a lot of breaking of things. I ended up setting up my own self-hosted server with N8N, and that was even more difficult to do. But now I have that, even though it's not working correctly. These things are something that you'll go through. You'll go through iterations of where you will build something, and it's either not going to work, or it's not what you need, even though you just spent 45 hours building it. So this is where it takes time. And this is why builders get paid so much, because there are so many iterations inside of the build to do the simplest of things. Just to do something like this scoring model was probably 5 days of my time just to figure out the scoring model and then making it work. And that was huge. That's a huge part of the Credli AI is the proprietary scoring model. But getting that to work and still getting it to work. Will it break if you put in this? So you're always testing it. And I think that's why people that build get paid so much, because they're able to iterate and figure out the end goal and make it simple. You have to make it very, very simple. So taking something very complex, and this doesn't look as complex as it could, but it is very complex because of the code behind it, and making that simple. So the complexity of this is pretty intense, but the code behind it is making it simple. And that code is well written, and it's got to withstand any kind of bumps or bruises that it's going to take. So that was where I had to learn how to figure out how to code for myself. And that's pretty difficult when you're using JSON and the JS and all these other acronyms. So that was the second thing. The third thing that I learned, there's this thing called Blotato here, and it's a really cool, I put my link inside of the description below. This is a really cool little tool, and it gives you some prompts to use. And what's great about this tool is it allows you to feed into N8N. And so it's a software that allows you to feed into N8N. It's got its own API. And she does a great job at this. She actually sold her company for millions, and then she started doing this. And so this woman is really high level. Her thought process is very high level, and she is a great coder, an excellent, like she really knows how to think like a machine would think. So that really helps out a lot. But this is not an easy thing to learn how to use, although it's very helpful. It's a great helpful tool. And my advice here, what I've learned, is that you use this with one of your integrations, like maybe Instagram, and you just do Instagram on this, and then you use it with something else so that you're not having to do something like this. This is an automation that whenever I post onto LinkedIn, it goes to all of my 9 socials. So I could post all day on TikTok and it will still hit all my 9 socials. And I don't have to go and do this over and over again. I can just do it once. So that's very, very helpful. And one of the things that I've found, having one place, an RSS feed that grabs this and then moves it to all of the other socials, is that I'm able to create multiple videos during the day, and that helps to keep people updated. It also helps to get my information out there. So that's the third thing I learned, and how to make something really complex to be very, very simple so that the machine would understand it. And that came with N8N and with Blotato. The next thing I learned about, which is pretty interesting, LinkedIn is not what it used to be based upon a lot of things, especially with AI. I have been reaching out to a lot of people in my network. I have over 5,971, or I have 5,971 connections, and then I have followers as well. So I don't know how many followers I have. It doesn't say here. It says 6,257 are following me. So this is a potential change. We regularly remove inactive accounts, so your list followers may have changed. So I'm following certain people, and then they're following me as well. So there's a lot here that shows up in your profile. And what I've learned with LinkedIn is they have really started to like think that you're an AI bot. You know, if you're sending out emails with LinkedIn, they think that you're an AI bot. And that's really difficult because now they have like limited how many emails you can send. So I'm only able to send 25 to 50 connects requests a day, but usually they cap me out at 30 to 35. And if I get to 50, great. Obviously, it's amazing. But I try to connect with as many people as I can every single day, and I try to connect with the niche that I'm working with. So that's very important. with LinkedIn is that now more than ever, in order to keep your LinkedIn profile seen inside of the homepage, you've really got to show up a lot more. So I've been doing a lot of articles and I've been doing a lot of posts and videos. One of the things that I have been doing as well is putting my avatar out there with Hey Gen videos, which is great. I really love that. So creating those videos, but the video itself is very difficult to get in a space that actually mimics you and mimics your voice. And that's a little bit difficult. So you use 11 Labs to do a professional voiceover, and then you upload as many avatars as you possibly can. And that's been a big thing with the avatars, is getting as many avatars out there as you possibly can so that you're able to groom your avatar and recreate that avatar each and every time. And that's been a big thing for me as well. So these are the things that I've been learning as I've been going on creating this. This is a month into the Credli. And the reason I'm making these is, number one, yes, I'm actively searching for clients and working to attract the people that really want to work with me, want to work with somebody who has a lot of experience, who knows what is going to happen down the line. Like, they can see, okay, if you go this way, you're going to end up here where you don't want to be. And even though it's difficult in the beginning, you probably want to put in more manpower in the front end of it than you do on the back end of it. A lot of people want to make it simple and easy, and any more simple and easy just really doesn't happen. You can definitely do a lot of things with AI, but as the market gets more saturated and as people get more used to seeing that, the human part of it is now becoming more and more a need for people to see where you're at. Like, who are you for real? What do you know? And how can you help them? And granted, I've spent a lot of time behind the screen and I haven't done a lot of videos showing how to do things. And that's been to my demise, because I didn't feel like I was, number one, good enough to do it, or I had the right clothes, or I had the right look, or I had the right makeup or the right hair, or I wasn't vivacious enough, or I didn't have the following, I didn't have whatever. So I always came from this space of, I'm just not going to be enough and nobody's going to want to follow somebody like me. And that is a lot with the Gen X community. I can say that based on that, I have had a lot of feelings myself about not being enough, not doing enough, not having enough, producing enough, whatever it is, enough. And this is something that I think is inherent in our society, as by and large, is that you're just constantly compared to the next person. And it will never, ever be cheap enough or good enough or fast enough or smooth enough or this enough or that enough. So in order for people to really understand who you are, I think coming at it from a vantage point of being a human first before you are an avatar is far more beneficial. Although I have yet to see anything really work in my arena for me. And the reason I haven't seen that is that I have been behind the screen for so long and I haven't been doing these kind of videos. So the goal is every day to get onto the TikTok and make an update, and get onto the video and make an update. And even though I have avatars and I have HeyGen and I have those, it's more so, showing exactly what's going on and sharing that. I will share a little bit of my terminal with you just so that you can see. This is a pretty big, intensive terminal. I just went and decided to kind of brain dump on the terminal and say, okay, we are here. Where do we need to go? And tell the terminal to think in a way that makes it easy for it to understand the next iteration. And because the terminal is not a human, even though it can answer you in a human way, it still iterates as a machine. So it has a way to answer you that's definitely language LLM, and it's a very big, extensive LLM, but it gets things wrong and it can get overwhelmed. So you can't give it a lot of things to do at once. You can only give it one thing to do at one time. And that's one of the things that even when you're training somebody new, you can only give them one thing to do at a time. Let them do that thing over and over again until they're really good at it, and then get the next thing going. And I think a lot of people are trying to do just so many things at one time, and including myself. I have to be the marketer, the project manager, the content creator, the editor, the video editor, the videographer, and then make the videos, be the scene behind, or the person behind the scene, and all of these things that are different jobs for different people. We as solopreneurs are doing everything, and this is where the overwhelm and the burnout comes from. And that's partly the reason, in fact, the whole reason why I was looking for a job, so that I can do a job and get paid a salary by somebody who needs a person to do a job. But unfortunately for me, I just could not find a job. And so I now have to reach out cold to people and get onto videos like this in hopes that there is someone that says, wow, I really appreciate the humbleness or the integrity or the credibility or the authority or just being the honest person and doing this honestly, as opposed to pretending to be something that I'm not and something that I will never be. And that is the perfect person with the perfect hair, the perfect makeup, the perfect look, and the perfect answer for every question. I'm just not that person, because there is no perfect answer for every question. And there is no one size fits all, because we're all different. And every single person who comes into my world as a client is treated as a different person, because that thing that they are looking for needs to be customized for them, not for someone else. And I think that that's where we've lost our humanity, is that we've just put everybody into a bucket and just said, oh, this is for you. But it's really not. And that's why I created Credli, because it shows the authority of the firm, of the practice, of the person. It shows the credibility of the firm, of the practice, of the person, and it shows the coverage. And so if you are an attorney who works for a firm, you really want to have that authority within your name, not just the firm's name, but your name. When people are looking for you, then you definitely want to have that credibility. You want to show up in the search engines with that authority. And if you're not showing up with that authority and you're showing up as your firm's name, then if ever the firm lets you go, or you leave the firm, or you go start your own firm, you have to start all over again, because you didn't establish your credibility as your name. And this is what is so important about establishing your credibility as your name. So, for example, I'm working on my own site, the NicoleJolie.com site, which is down now, because I'm going to be creating a whole site about Gen X and what it's like to be a Gen Xer looking for this job and learning all of this stuff. And these are the things that will really help me to achieve a more holistic, ubiquitous name as an authority. Not just I'm the founder of Credli, but I'm also this person over here who writes these articles about being a Gen Xer, what it's like to look for a job, what it's like to not have clients, what it's like to be broke, what it's like to have money, what it's like to not have money, what it's like to not be the perfect woman, be compared to all the perfect women. So all of these things that are really important to me and to other women as well. And so that's why I started this project. And that this is the month into this project. It's not been easy. It's been very difficult. I am seriously wondering, what did I just do? But I have to keep going. And my goal this week is to find one client, one paying client, and help them to achieve that authority over a period of time. It's not going to happen overnight. Definitely not going to happen overnight. And for those people that say he ranked overnight, that ranking will go away. So understand that this whole thing of overnight and that I just got ranked for this doesn't matter unless somebody else is looking for that and you are being ranked in a way that is showing up in everybody's search. And I don't know if that's really, really possible, but I'm not going to say it's not possible. So that is my whole month for you. Number one, I learned how to groom my terminal. Number two, I learned that I have to use this scoring model right now, or this intake form, because the scoring model gets used too much by the API and it gets hacked. So because I was hacked, I have to use an intake form so that I know who's on the site and who is giving me their information. The next thing I learned was how to automate my my posts, and this was not easy at all. I also learned how to create an EC2 self-hosted N8N terminal. I learned how to use the cloud terminal. I learned how to use AWS all over again to create public HTTPS, which is not as easy as it used to be able to just create a public HTTPS, but it's no longer like that. I also learned about LinkedIn, how they are limiting the reach outs, and so many other things. So I hope this reaches you in a way that makes you think about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what exactly you can do to create your own authority online, and possibly that Credli can help you. So I will see you in the next update.